Hello, friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck. All right, we're going to do another recipe vlog today. Now, I want to talk about that a little bit. In the past, I have referred to my recipe vlogs as mouse food, and even I got to admit that doesn't sound too appetizing. At best, it sounds like I'm preparing food that would only be appetizing to a rodent. At worst, I don't even want to think about that. Now, a couple people have suggested in the comments section or on the live streams that maybe I should rename it to something that's an homage to the kitties and call it Bytes and Nibbles with Breck. And, well, that's a little bit too sweet for me to the point where I almost think I'm going to need a little insulin afterwards. You know, it's also pretty clever. So I think we're going to try that for a while and see how it works. So today's segment is called Bytes and Nibbles with Breck. Today we are going to cook a recipe from our friend Michelle Dalton. She sent in a very quick and easy recipe. In fact, it's got quick and easy in the title. It's called Quick and Easy Bubble and Speak Dish. Now I chose this because one, it's quick and it's easy, and two, if you have basically the ingredients, it's almost free to make, because what it's designed to do is be an option for you to use up old veggies that would normally maybe just go to waste, ones that you didn't use over the weekend or something like that. Now, it didn't quite work that way for me, because generally when I get veggies, they don't last very long. You know, I eat them pretty quick, so I don't really have any leftover veggies. But what I did go do is buy some of the veggies that I like, and basically, if you have the basics of this, which is basically butter, salt, and pepper, and potatoes, then basically you can just mix in whatever else you have floating around. And I just went out and got the kind of things that I like. So I got like carrots, and I got peas, and I got corn, and some broccoli, and stuff like that. We're going to chop that all up and throw it in here. Now, unlike the way I usually do my recipes, I'm going to actually improvise a little bit, because that's kind of the point of this whole recipe, is it's all about improvisation. So I'm going to also throw in a little garlic for flavor, because I always love garlic in my potatoes anyway. But yeah, let's get going on the quick and easy bubble and squeak dish. All right, so here are the basic ingredients that I'm going to use. Actually, the only ingredients that you really absolutely do need to have is they want you to have 1 pound of mashed potatoes, half a cup of finely sliced, finely sliced onion, 6 tablespoons of butter. They actually say unsalted butter. I'm going to go with this instead. And then salt and pepper to taste. Everything else is just kind of what you want. So I've got some snap peas. I've already kind of pulled them out of the pod. I'm going to grate up a little bit of some of these baby carrots. I love broccoli, so I'm going to grind that into it. I'm going to put some garlic into it, and we're going to put some corn into it. Now, normally I don't go with corn, anything from a can. Unfortunately, the only way I'm good at removing corn from the cob is with my teeth, and I don't want to do it that way. So we're just going to go with canned corn in this case. Now, the recipe doesn't really tell you to go out and make the mashed potatoes, so I assume they are expecting that you're going to go buy them. But you know what? I'm not going to go buy mashed potatoes. I can make my own. They're pretty simple to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to peel the skin off of my potato. I'm going to cut it into slices. We're going to boil it in water for a while until it gets soft. We're going to drain off the water, and we're going to mash it in with a little bit of butter for flavor, a little bit of salt for flavor, and I'm going to mix my garlic in at that point. So let's get that done. Engage time-lapse video now. All right, now we're just going to chop it into little bits, and we're going to throw it in some boiling water. Now, I know we've talked about this before. I have good kitchen cutlery, but unfortunately it's all in the storage lockers, so I'm using a steak knife, just bear with me, that's what I'm doing. So I'm just going to cut this into little pieces, probably about 1-inch chunks. All right, so since I dropped a little bit on the floor, I'm going to actually rinse it off a little bit. And then we're just going to fill the pot up with some water, just cover up the potatoes. And onto the stove it goes. We're going to bring it up to a boil, and we're going to just let it cook for about 10 minutes on a slow boil. Now, as we mentioned before, this recipe is basically you're just throwing into it what you like into it. So there are no right or wrong answers. If you're not into garlic, definitely don't do that. I'm doing it because I like garlic, and I like a lot of garlic. So one of the tricks I've learned recently that I really like in terms of getting good results from garlic, I do actually have a garlic press, but I've discovered that when you use the food processor, once you've pulled all the skin off of the nuts, you put it in the food processor with the little slicing tool, and it does a fantastic job of chopping this up into little bits, and I really like the results that you get from that. So this is something, probably not going to see any real chefs do this, but this is something that I like to do, and I think I get good results from it. Into the food processor we go. Put the cap on and turn it on. And it chops it up into nice little bits. So yeah, I think we're good to go there. I'm going to use a rubber scraper now. We're going to remove that and put that into a little dish, and we'll mix that in with the potatoes once we get to the point where we're mashing the potatoes. See what I mean by how finely chopped that is? That's perfect. Oh man, do I love the smell of garlic. Notice my potatoes have finally come to a boil, so I'm going to drop the temperature a little bit on the range because we just want that to kind of simmer for about 5 minutes. So while we're waiting for the potatoes to finish boiling, I'm going to actually prepare the veggies. And what I'm going to do, instead of using the slicing tool, I'm going to actually use the grating tool, because what they say is they want you to grate up the veggies into really, really fine chunks. I think when I did the meatloaf before, I think that was one of the problems that I would maybe change next time. I used a slicing tool to cook it, and what you ended up with is big, long slices of things, and that tended to make the meatloaf not clump together very well. I think if I used the grating tool on it, I think I'd do better. So we're going to do that on this one too. Now I only need about a half a cup of onions. So actually what I did is I took my onion, cut it in about 1/3, skinned it, and now we're just going to throw that into the food processor. All right, so a third of that onion actually turned out to be a bit less than half a cup. So I sliced off another about third, and now we got a half a cup of onions. So we're ready now. And I'm crying again, as usual. That's why I prefer using the food processor to do onions, because slicing up by hand, it'd be torture. And I think our potatoes are about ready now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour the water off into my strainer. And then we're going to just, after everything's drained out here, we're going to pour the potatoes back in here. And now's where the magic happens. All right, our mashed potatoes are ready to go. We're going to throw in a little bit of butter to add some flavor. This isn't actually part of the butter they call for in the recipe, so that's going to be above and beyond that. We're going to put a fair chunk of butter in there because that just kind of makes everything more liquid. And then I'm going to just start mashing them up here. You kind of know how mashed potatoes look. And then I'm going to throw in my garlic right now too. Might as well add that in there, right? And we're going to put it all in there because I like garlic. Oh yeah. Garlicky. And then more mashing. Put it all nice and mixed up in there. I'm going to throw a little milk in there too. That sometimes helps loosen it up a bit. Just a little bit, just to make it a little bit more liquidy, more mashed potato-y. Oh yeah, now I think we're getting there. Gotta get all the potatoes out of the middle here. Because you don't want to give up any of it here, right? Mashed potatoes are the good stuff. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is salt and pepper to taste. I'm actually not going to put any salt in it because I think the butter will take care of that. And we don't want to drown it out, but I like a little pepper in mine, so we're going to do that. Ah, sounds like it's getting ready to rain. And then mix it up a little bit just to get it all mixed in there really good. This has got good mashed potato consistency. I don't see any lumps or anything, and that's kind of what you want with good mashed potatoes. Alright, now we're going to put this aside and we're going to wait until we need this. So next step now, I'm going to kind of grind up some of my carrots and my broccoli. I've already got the peas and the corn, so I don't need to do a whole lot with that. I'm just going to throw that in as whole. I'm not going to grind that up at all because that's already in nice small pieces. And like I said, there aren't any exact measurements here, so I'm just kind of putting a little of everything in here. And we're kind of making it up as we go along here. Then we're going to do the same with our broccoli. Like I said, we just want this in small, nice little chunks. Alright, so I got kind of my carrots and my broccoli. I'm going to throw in my peas. And then I'm going to go strain out a little bit of the corn too, and we'll mix that all in there. And then we mix in some of the corn. And that's going to kind of be our veggies. Like I said, a lot of times it's all going to depend on what you're into. I pick things that I want because for the most part I don't let veggies stay around very long. So I had to actually go buy stuff fresh for this. But this is going to be kind of the veggie base of everything we're making. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to melt our 6 tablespoons of butter, and we're going to saute our onions just a little bit here. They say for about 3 minutes on kind of a medium heat. Basically you want to get the onions so that they're nice and kind of translucent color. They say about 3 minutes once everything starts to melt. You can use olive oil if you want, but the recipe recommends the butter. They say it tastes better. I'm guessing the olive oil is probably healthier. Alright, as you can see, we are starting to boil here a little bit. So we're just going to kind of keep this moving. Like I said, we're going to go for about 3 minutes until the onions are getting translucent. I'm going to kind of move away because it's still to the point where they're making me cry. Nobody wants to see a grown man cry, right? All right, after about 3 minutes, and that's what we've been on now. Now we just kind of mix everything else in. So it's going to be the veggies and the potatoes. And they say raise the heat a little bit. And the potatoes. And then we're just going to kind of keep that going. We're going to raise the heat a little bit because we kind of want to mix it all together now. The instructions say that the mashed potatoes are kind of glue that mash everything together. You kind of want to kind of keep it, like I said, everything moving so that the veggies brown really nicely. And then the instructions say once you hit the 10-minute mark, you kind of just mash it all down into a flat patty. Cook it. For 1 minute. And I'm not really sure how this is all going to work here because I'm supposed to be able to flip it at this point using a spatula. I don't know how exactly that works. This probably isn't going to be pretty, but let's see what happens. Yeah, didn't work all that pretty, but we'll figure it out. Probably overcooked it a little bit too, but that's all right. Not really, I was wondering how that was all going to work, and honestly, it didn't very well. I wonder if it's maybe because I have more vegetables in there. We'll give it 1 more minute on this. It may not be pretty looking, but it actually looks and smells pretty good. All right, well, I'm going to try something a little different in terms of getting it out of there. I'm going to take an approach that I use with omelets, and let's see how that works. Okay, well that worked better than it could have been. So it doesn't really call for it, but I'm going to let this rest just for a few minutes, just one to maybe like bake together a little bit, and we'll see how it works. Like I said, I'm not sure this is exactly how it was supposed to turn out, but like I said, it looks good, it smells good, so we'll give it a try. All right, one of the things the directions say you can do if you're so inclined is you can put like an egg over the top of it. They suggested like a fried egg or even some bacon. I just stuck with it just in the plain format, just because I wanted to see what I was working with. Like I said, it looks pretty good. It got a little bit burned, but I was also a little concerned about how it was that you were going to flip this thing over. That was concerning me even before I did it. And I think maybe what part of the problem may have been is I may have put a little too many vegetables in it. They say that the potatoes are supposed to be the glue that kind of holds everything together. And if I had too many vegetables in there, there may not have been enough glue. So I'm going to give it a try and let's see what it's like. You know, honestly, I think what it was supposed to do is kind of cook together like hash browns would, where you can kind of, after they've cooked together, they kind of stick together, and then you can flip them up and move them around pretty easily. And I think that was sort of the goal here, and I don't think we hit that objective. But like I said, it still looks good, so let's try it. It is good. I probably should have put a little bit more salt in it. I didn't put any salt in it. But you know what? That's easy to fix. What you can do is, you know, pour salt on it before you cook it, and it'll be pretty good. But this is, you know, with the exception of like the butter, this is like completely vegetarian, you know, because all it is in this case broccoli and carrots and potatoes and garlic and corn and peas, and that's all there is in this. And yeah, it's pretty good. And I can taste the garlic. I like the garlic flavor. It's good. So yeah, I don't know. You know, you can try this if you want. Like I said, I will. I'm not 100% sure it turned out the way it was supposed to, but it's good, and I'll eat it. And it looks like I'll get a couple of meals out of it. And it's a good way to make use of extra vegetables if you have them. And you know, like I said, I got out of the door, you know, cooking all of this stuff, buying all these ingredients myself for $9. So you know, that was pretty good. So after looking at that last scene and realizing I totally fouled up the shot by cutting off my head for the last scene, I figured I better do my outro again, just because, you know, it wouldn't be any good to look at my mouth like that. So anyway, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Bon appetit!